Hi and good morning. Welcome to this walk and talk. Still, the market is not too much recovering. We see a little recovery. We can see quite a good recovery, I would say, at least for Bitcoin. If you look at yesterday, we talked about Bitcoin went down to 98. Then overnight, my time, it was up to 104,000. And now I think it's at 103,000, so all okay. What else happened in the market? Privacy coins are still running hot. Still, ZCash, CK Sync, Decre, and all the other stuff is actually running quite well. So this would be a narrative that was performing quite well over the last 2 weeks, as we have been talking about it. What else happened? So in the political arena, Mamdani actually won, I think, the new governor of New York, right? So this will be interesting, and this will be actually, again, as we have discussed, a good case for Bitcoin, because actually exactly what we discussed in our last videos will now happen in New York. If you don't know what's going on, they're actually very pro-free stuff, meaning they want to make buses free, which is, as European, kind of a joke, because a lot of cities or countries in Europe have free buses, or buses where you don't pay almost anything. But the interesting thing, they also want to reshuffle the wealth, meaning that they have the feeling that a lot of poor people, a lot of people should get much more support. And of course, they need to take it from somebody, so probably they will take it from people with money. So they also want to set up supermarkets that the government runs. This will be very interesting, how that should work. We know that the government is a very bad business person. So probably if you go into a government supermarket, the whatever eggs will cost you like one egg like $50, because they're doing such a good job in understanding how everything works. So let's see how that works. But if you, for example, own real estate in New York, this will be very interesting. I'm sure there will be some regulations that you cannot charge over a certain amount of money. So I understand that rents in New York are very, very expensive, and that is a problem, as it is not possible for a lot of people to live in somewhere around the center, right? This indeed is a problem, but if you just have bought, or if your family owns prime real estate in New York, I'm not sure if you now actually want to be kept in what you can charge for your real estate. So this will be very interesting, and this will be also a very interesting use case for Bitcoin. As discussed, Bitcoin, you can't just leave the country, and with real estate, it's much more complicated, right? Let's see what else I wanted to discuss. So the markets, as we have started the video, are still quite shaky. You can make a lot of profits if you are in the right assets. I find it very complicated because I always basically invest much earlier, meaning that I put my money into the market like half a year ago, when actually there's fear or the cycle has not really started. And so I am not investing at the moment in these privacy coins and all that stuff. I'm still waiting for the markets to give me much better solutions or much better prices. Maybe there will be a round trip in for me, but we'll see. Like discussed, if you're holding multi-cycle assets, the round trip is not that bad. I mean, yeah, on paper, you're losing a lot of money, but in reality, it's not much that you're losing. So yeah, if you are in the right narrative in crypto, you can always make money, but it's very difficult. I don't know if it's difficult. Like, you really need to monitor the markets. You need to monitor what is going up, what is going down. The hard thing is, if assets are already jumping that high, you have to be very careful, because you do not want to get in on the top. So this is very important for you to understand. Morning. So if you really want to still get into these assets like the privacy coins, you need to decide for yourself if you still want to jump in. A lot of times, if you jump into an asset, then it will happen to you basically, maybe calling the dogs, I don't know. And you jump into the asset, but on the next day, basically, the asset will go down very much. So this is an issue. It's very hard to get into an asset when it's already running so high. I think ZCash went to $500 already. And when we have first been talking about it, I think it was around 200. And it's not a new coin, right? The question is, should you trust the team? Should you get into it or not? From the technology, it's actually one of the better projects, because you have a very similar setup like in Bitcoin. And to my knowledge, there are also people that are actually have been heavily involved into the Bitcoin ecosystem. So it's very similar to Bitcoin, but on the other side, if you listen to real privacy people that are more under the radar, that are more Monero supporters. So I hope my mic will not go bust in the rain. Let's see. So if you listen to Monero supporters or pirate chain people, or really people that have a good idea about encryption, they're not so happy about the privacy coins. But I think mainly they're not so happy because it is optional. And optional, as we have discussed, means that you can turn on and off if the transactions are invisible. So as a business, you can transfer money and shield it, but there's a lot of other technologies that can also do that. So I don't think that big companies, big banks and so on, will go into ZCash. I don't know. A lot of YouTube influencers are starting to make money and promoting it as new Bitcoin. Let's see, we'll see. So in my opinion, because we are so close, at least if you are still counting the 4-year cycle, because we are so close at somehow the end. Maybe we have 2 more months, maybe we have 6 more months, something like that. I would say some people say it will go down now, and then in May, when the new Fed chair, I think it's in May, will come in, then we see an explosion in liquidity. We'll see. But what I want to say is, if you are convinced now ZCash is like the next Bitcoin, in my opinion, it's better than to wait to try to make a profit, or hopefully the market will still go up quite a while. Then we can sell our asset that we have bought in extreme fear, maybe, or at some very low level, and then we can sell it. And then when the market really goes down in some months, all the assets, including Bitcoin, including ZCash, including ZK Sync and whatever, will go down massively. The only thing that could actually stop this from this, especially Bitcoin and the privacy coins going down, in my opinion, is if something really bad is going to happen, meaning that regular people starting to understand what the governments are doing to them, how everything is working. But I'm not sure how fast that will go. We have seen some situations in the past where most people didn't understand what is going on. So I don't think that this will be a case, and suddenly everybody will jump on the train. So if you imagine somebody who has never transacted, who has never used Bitcoin, it's very unlikely that suddenly he will use it. The people need some pain. So if any or many governments gonna start to inflict much more pain on the citizens, so real pain, then they probably come around, and then I see opportunity where this gets used a lot and there will be no downturn for it. But it's unrealistic. It's the same now if you look at how many people have gold. Not many, right? Physical gold. Young people still probably don't see the value or see much more advantages in having Bitcoin. This is all fine. Every asset, I mean, gold, silver, Bitcoin, all of these assets have their purpose. Also real estate. I know I talk quite negative about real estate in most of my videos, but I'm just talking about real estate as investment in my videos. If you made good money, if you found a place where you want to stay and you want to buy something, go ahead and do it. But always remember that you don't really own it. And always remember, it could be that you have to leave one day, and then it's very difficult to take it with you. And if you want to really make sure you're fine, you should always have, you can have your real estate, but you should have still quite some money on the side. So you're not bound to the real estate. So you can still have the freedom to leave the real estate behind. If really something not so good happens, then you're probably not going to be the only one leaving the country. And then probably it's going to be quite hard to sell your real estate for quite a good price. So yeah, interesting market at the moment. Also, the stock market crashed quite a lot, not just in the United States. I think in Korea, they even hit the circuit breaker, which means every major stock market has got a mechanism that if the market falls too much overnight or falls too much, then actually the market gets stopped automatically. I'm not sure. So some US-based people said this is because now Mamdani is taking over New York soon. And this is basically the financial heart of the Western world, right? And you have now, I don't know even how he calls himself, a socialist Democrat or something like that. I mean, people from especially Eastern Europe will laugh at this because they have lived through this themselves, right? And they know how it's going to work. The problem is that people from especially the US have not lived through anything. No wars. I mean, if you have been in Vietnam and stuff like that, or wherever in the world, right? The maybe with the army. But what I'm talking about is the people in America have not gone through like World War One, two, whatever, like we had, um, and have not seen like all these experiments like the Soviet Union, the communism, the separation of countries like in Germany. A lot of people in a lot of these Eastern countries know what it is if you go into the supermarket and everything, the shelves are empty and everybody works for the government, and a special group of people has a lot of money and all of the other people don't have anything, then you have some kind of special police checking everything, and everybody has the same car and this funny stuff. But that fits actually quite well into the topic that we have discussed before with the money, with the Bitcoin, people accepting Bitcoin, and people accepting or going into these assets because they understand it, understand the purpose. The same is it if you've never seen this kind of regime like communism, socialism, all this stuff. You may think it's good because it gets stuff for free, but who's working for it? And if you're taking everything for free, don't forget that actually then you are getting dependent, because the person or the entity which is giving you free stuff can always tell you, yeah, but you need to do this, right? Or you need to do that, because otherwise your free stuff is gone. So keep that in mind. It's not like that rosy. In my opinion, if you want to have something, you need to work for it. I understand that there are people that are not able to work or had bad times or have injuries or whatever else. This is fine if these people, of course, get supported, but not people who are just unwilling to work. This is not okay, because everybody should be there for the society, right? The problem just with taxation is that taxation is spent and collected in a much too big area. If taxation would be used in a small town, so everybody from the town pays a certain amount, 10% or whatever, and then the people see how it is used in the town, I'm sure everybody would be happy to pay taxes. Now we have a system where the money flows out from you into probably not even the same country or same continent, and it gets wasted somewhere for some shit that is much too expensive, right? So this is a bit of an issue. So let's end the video here. I'm not sure if we're gonna make a video tomorrow. It's always, I have to see if there's any new topics I can talk about, right? I don't want to talk about the same stuff all the time, but let's see what is gonna happen today. Take care. See you. Bye-bye.